Welcome to That's Canon, a podcast talking about the Canon Film Library and other similar movies. This is episode 17, and I'm your host, Phil.
And I'm Greg.
Greg, you said this
Sir.
movie made you feel feelings.
This movie made me feel feelings, Phil, and they weren't good feelings. I didn't like it.
Sure. What movie did you watch?
Okay, it was listed on Amazon as X-Ray. We talked about this on our previous episode, how this movie had a bunch of names associated with it. It was listed on Amazon as X-Ray.
Okay.
It was actually titled in the movie Hospital Massacre.
All right, good. So we did watch the
same movie.
Okay.
Phew. It's bound to happen one of these times.
And it'll be great when it actually does happen, because these movies have 1,000 different titles. So yes, It is X-Ray, Be My Valentine, or else Ward 13, Hospital Massacre. All 5 titles.
I'm assuming those were, X-Ray and Hospital Massacre seem to be the ones that we're familiar with the most. Were those other ones just like from releases in other countries, I guess?
I'm pretty sure those are releases from different countries, because Boaz Davidson is from Tel Aviv, Israel, the director of this movie, which kind of makes sense with some of the things that go on in the movie. This definitely is this is what Americans do moment. Or like, this is like America. This is what happens, right?
I'm going to make American horror movie.
Yeah, big American horror movie.
So did the Canon guys, Menachem and Golem, I think that's their names, the two brothers.
Yep.
Did they know him from their days in the Israeli film industry?
It doesn't give too much insight into like their relationship or how they potentially knew each other. But I will say this guy, Boaz Davidson, has done more Canon films. This will not be the last time that we've seen a movie with this guy.
That's making me feel more feelings.
Yeah. You would know him as the director of Going Bananas.
Oh, fuck. Okay. I'm looking forward to that more now. Okay.
And in a couple movies, actually, we'll be watching a comedy from him called The Last American Virgin.
Oh, God. Okay. That does not bode well, because this, as a horror movie, was full of, like you said before, people who don't understand horror movies, but putting things in that they think are in horror movies. I can only imagine how cringy and uncomfortable that will be in a comedy.
So not only is it a comedy, but it's a remake of his own film.
Oh, like a film he produced in Israel and tried to remake for the American market?
And then he remade it for the American market.
Oh, God. Okay.
Boaz Davidson's actually one of the writers of this film. He wrote the story. Mark Bem wrote the screenplay of the film. Mark Bem has really gone on to he made a couple other films, but he never really hit it big. There's a huge gap between this and I think the next one would be Eye of the Beholder with Ashley Judd and Ewan McGregor. But that came out in 1999 and was probably overshadowed by episode 1.
Yeah, but that is a pretty big gap in your career, I guess.
I can see why. I can see why he has a gap in his career.
Yeah.
The quality of the movie on Amazon Prime was atrocious as well.
It was really bad, wasn't it? It looked like, it definitely was not like an HD scan of a actual like film negative. It looked like a VHS rip.
Yeah.
Short of the tracking lines.
But it's definitely shocking by how cheap it looked. Even from like a slasher perspective. Let's just go ahead and get into it.
Yes.
The movie opens up and the Canon group, it looks kind of cheesy. Then we see X-rays of like pelvises and skulls as the credits is going on.
I thought that was kind of cool, actually. I didn't know anything about this going into it, and I was actually starting out with the credits. I thought that was kind of a cool credit sequence. Kind of, X-rays are kind of creepy, and I don't know. I thought that was kind of effective. I was cautiously optimistic. Boy, was I wrong though.
You're like X-rays. All right.
All right, that's kind of cool
Hospitals.
for a hospital themed horror movie. That's a logical choice. Well done.
It opens up in the year 1961 as we see two small children, a boy and a
Yes,
girl. Girl's name's Susan, and
Susan.
they're playing with trains because that's what you do in 1961. There's no video games or
Nope.
anything.
And
It,
boy, are they loving that shit.
they are because it was a simpler time back then. And it's Valentine's Day as
Yes,
well, which is, I guess, really cool theme. There's only one other Valentine's Day type movie that I know of, and it's My Bloody Valentine, which is a
classic.
far superior film.
Far superior, different universe.
Yeah. Uh, as the kids are playing with the train, we see this other kid come up. He's like knocking on the door. He looks really creepy. He has the eyes and the face of a killer, and he leaves a Valentine note for Susan. They open it up and they read it, and it's from Harold, and they start laughing.
They think that is just the funniest shit. They think, ew, Harold, gross. Ha 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 ha. And the little boy that she's hanging out with like crumples it up and like throws it away. It's
Yeah.
really, really mean.
Harold's peeping in on them from like the window, and he has a "I'm gonna kill you" look
Oh
on
yeah.
his face.
That
Mind you,
Kubrick stare.
these are children, so keep that in mind.
Yes.
Um, Susan goes to cut a cake. She cuts it like a psychopath. She has like she's holding it by the handle with both of her hands, and she like slices
Oh
down
God. Yeah.
like Jason.
It's like a comically oversized knife. It's like the size of her arm.
Yeah.
It's practically a machete. I mean, this I didn't realize it at this point, but this sets a really like it sets up a theme that they do a ton in this movie, where it's like constant red herrings of people doing mundane things with horror movie timing and music.
Oh yeah.
Where like she slowly pulls the knife out of the knife tray and walks over to the cake like she's about to stab it to death. But like she's just cutting herself a slice of cake, but they do that
Yep.
constantly throughout this movie.
Pure hateful intent for the most mundane activity.
Yes.
As she's slicing the cake, you can hear commotion going on from the living room. And Susan's kind of like, oh, keep it down. But why? Because they're the only two in the entire house.
And it's like they're playing with a model train. Like, what kind of horseplay is she expecting? Is he like stomping on the train? I mean,
That would have been so cool. He goes out.
wait a second, I hate trains.
He's maliciously destroying the train track. I hate you, Susan, and I hate these trains.
I hate these stupid trains.
As Susan comes out with two slices of cake, she sees that her friend has his head jammed on the top of a coat rack.
Coat rack, yeah.
His I guess if the coat rack has a hook, the hook is going through the bottom of his jaw,
Okay.
like up into his brain.
I wasn't exactly because like the way it's framed, I wasn't actually sure what what was supposed to have happened. I assumed that maybe he just like had his head wedged in there and like his neck broke, but it didn't occur to me that one of the posts of the coat rack would be like in his head.
A better horror movie would have shown you the gore instead of making you guess how he died.
I mean, I guess it's kids, so I guess probably better that we didn't see it too graphically, but I guess it's a little less weird when it's kid on kid crime. I don't know.
The fact that they kill the kid within the first 4 minutes, the movie gets at least 1 star right off the bat from me.
That's true. It's a bold move.
Susan turns around and she sees Harold like creeping in the window, loving the death, and she kind of screams. And then we cut to what would be present day, 19 years later.
Before we jump off of the flashback, I have to ask, did you recognize the little girl?
No, I didn't. Is she notable?
I wouldn't say notable. I recognized her from another horror movie that came out, turns out the same year, called Bloody Birthday. Did you ever
Really?
Yeah.
No, I've never seen that.
It's again, a lot of things are better than this movie, but this one, the Bloody Birthday, was also better. She plays like another like creepy little girl, and the whole premise is like she's got two friends, like two little boyfriends, and they're kind of like they kill a bunch of people in the neighborhood, and it's basically like little kid serial killers. But there's like a really great thing in that movie where she's her older sister is kind of this hot teenager, and they typically they frame it that way. And this little girl does this really creepy thing where she like sells other little boys in the neighborhood like a peep show at her sister. Like
Oh wow.
she's got like a hole cut in her closet that showed like goes into the older sister's room, and she's got this really great line where she says, like, how has your sister not found out about this by now? The little boy asks, and she says, "Don't worry about that. All her brains are in her bra."
Wow.
It was just like
Awesome.
it was such a great line. That's like that's what made this little girl, the actress, so memorable because like that was such a hilarious thing to say in that movie. So I just was like, as soon as I saw her in this flashback, it's like, oh, it's a little girl from Bloody Birthday. Awesome. Turns out like these are like the only two movies she ever made. I think she stopped acting in '84. So
Yeah. She didn't, looking at her IMDb, she didn't do too much more after.
yeah, not too much else. But yeah, I just
She
thought that was kind of a cool little cameo by someone else I recognize. Not a lot of child actors and actresses that you recognize in these movies.
definitely not. So we cut to 19 years later. Susan's now an adult. She's a brunette now instead of blonde. Susan, when she was in the flashback, was a blonde. Now she's a a brunette,
Oh yeah, totally different hair color.
and she's played by Barbie Benton. Barbie Benton was a Playboy model, and she was actually
I knew
married
it.
to Hugh Hefner,
Oh my
or
God. I
they were an item. They lived with each other for almost a decade, and Barbie Benton was actually
wow.
very instrumental in certain parts of Hugh Hefner's
Like his
Playboy,
like
like,
the business empire, I guess.
yeah, she's the
Wow.
one who came up with the idea for the Playboy Mansion. She was actually
Wow.
in a Playboy After Dark TV show where she was like a sidekick co-host with Hugh Hefner.
Huh. Wow. I kudos to her. Like why is she slumming in this shitty movie then? She actually clearly had some like business smarts to her.
Yeah,
What was she doing making this crap?
she was a singer as well. She had 4 albums.
Really?
Yeah. She, uh,
Man, she had quite a career.
Barbie Doll, Barbie Benton, Something New, Ain't That Just the Way are the albums. She hit number 5 with one of them called Brass Buckles.
Wow, good for her.
Yeah. So
It's
she had
interesting.
like
Yeah.
a pretty big career going there, but she did stop acting in the late 80s. She settled down and she raised her
Okay.
children and stuff like that. So that's why she stopped acting. It
That's
wasn't
good.
that
She got out.
yeah, she got out. It wasn't that they didn't want her anymore. She just stopped.
Huh. I mean, it's interesting you said like I actually there's something about her look, and I was like, oh, I wondered if you can sometimes tell because they in a lot of these B movies, especially the horror movies, they like to cast like Playboy playmates who were famous in some way. And then there's a couple movies I can't think of it off the top of my head that did that, but there's always like the way that they do their makeup or their hair or something. There's always like a look about them.
Oh yeah.
I wondered if that was like something that she had done, and it's interesting that somehow I was right about that.
She's got those amazing curls. It's all feathered. She looks,
Right,
I mean, she always looks like she's ready to have her picture taken,
right. Oh yeah, she
even
looks
though
great.
she's supposed to be playing kind of like a normal person. Um,
She looks maybe that's what it is they're just like they're way too pretty to
yeah.
be normal people. Like
She's
believable normal people.
she is so pretty around a sea of normal looking actors, right?
Yes.
Like all the guys look normal.
Oh yeah, especially those chuds. Yeah, geez.
Yeah, she is not. Susan has a job. I don't really know what she did. We'll just say lawyer
Yeah, some
or
kind of office
something.
job. She's kind of has like a pencil skirt, kind of like a really dressed up kind of look to her.
Yep. Nice maroon jacket and everything. The ex-husband comes up with her daughter, and she's immediately like, "You idiot. I have to go to the doctor. I can't look
Right?
after our daughter." Really mean, like immediately.
Yeah, and it was weird, right? That she insulted the ex-husband in front of the daughter.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I mean, even if like whatever, regardless of what happened in the marriage, I feel like it's kind of a dick move to like try to turn your daughter against him and like undermine that relationship by
I
insulting him
know.
to her face,
It was
his
kind
face.
of off-putting, and it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So they come to the conclusion that Susan's going to go to the hospital with her new fiance who just pulled up in his blue car. Uh, and as she walks
Mr.
away,
Right.
you kind of get the evil look from the ex-husband. It's these are
Ugh.
the moments of we're setting up who could be the killer.
Yeah,
So
the first of many. God.
yes, it happens way too often in this movie.
Yes.
Susan and the fiance, who I have to say, I love the fiance. His name is Jack in the film. He's played by John Van Ness, and he was in the awesome movie called Tourist Trap.
Tourist Trap, really? I didn't
Yes.
recognize him. I mean,
He
he has
played
the kind of a generic look to him.
he played Jerry, and he was also in Alligator 2, The Mutation, which is a movie about a giant alligator. If you can watch that, Alligator and Alligator 2,
Okay,
you'll have a great time.
that's a great double feature. Okay.
Yes. So they pull up to the hospital. Now, Susan's going there to get her test results, and her Jack is like, "Is this gonna take a long time?"
Boy, you said a mouthful there, dude.
Like, what the hell? I understand it's test results. It's like medical test results, and at this time, we don't know what she's getting test results for.
Nope. Yeah, hasn't not even mentioned.
Jack also mentions, "Is this the creepy hospital that someone went crazy in?" Susan's like, "I don't know. I don't think so." But then it pans up and we see a creepy doctor looking out the window as Susan walks in.
Yeah, kind of like overly dressed in surgical gear. He's got like one of those like head wraps on and a big surgical mask, and he's got like his collar pulled up to his neck, his chin, and yeah. Gee,
He
I wonder if
looks,
that's a killer.
I wonder, could that be a killer? Susan's getting directions of where she needs to go, and she's met the creepy janitor who's like
Oh God.
tapping his fingers on a Rolodex type thing,
Yeah, or
like where the
file
note
cabinet or
cards file
something.
cabinet. And he kind of, as Susan walks away, he like creeps around and watches her walk
Oh
away.
yeah, stairs, just like stares her down as she walks down the hall.
Yep, really weird.
Again, gee, like setting up, like this movie trying to set up, sow seeds of doubt. Like, who's the killer? Of all these creepy dudes, this lady's surrounded by creepers. Who could it be?
Also, during that scene, there was psycho type music playing. It was like it was like the string quartet, the
Oh
type
yeah,
thing.
the music in this movie in general. There's one cool like chorus track that plays a couple times. It's good, but overall the music is just either it's not playing at all when it should be, or it just does not fit the scene at all. And this is kind of the start
Yeah,
of that.
it was kind of weird. Considering Psycho 2 didn't come out for a few more years later, it's kind of weird that they would use a callback like that
Something
to a
like that.
movie that
Yeah.
would have been like 2 decades old.
Yeah,
But
geez, that was what, 59, 60?
something like that, yeah,
Yeah.
around that time. So Susan's walking away. The janitor is looking intense as hell. Uh, she gets into an elevator. Oh, by the way, it's also Valentine's Day to pull
Which
it all around.
your only indication of that is just like decorations that are up in
Decorations.
the hotel reception area, weirdly. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that they decorated for holidays like that, but who knows?
No one else really mentions it. There's no obscure talking of like, oh, I'm going on a date because it's Valentine's Day. It's just the
Hmm.
set decorations.
Which you'd think that they would at least have one throwaway line, like what you
Yeah.
just said, like, "Oh, can we hurry?" Like, or oh, yeah, here's what you do: the fiance, I mean, he's taken his fiance to her appointment. He's like, "Well, how long is this going to take? We've got a dinner reservation." Like, that's all it would have taken.
Wow, you're a better screenwriter already, Greg. Uh,
Didn't take
Susan
much.
Susan gets into the elevator and we meet Hal, one of the best characters in the film because he just gets to act insane. Hal is dripping ketchup all over the place. He has the most ketchup riddled burger in the world. And Hal's also drunk off his ass in the
Yeah,
elevator.
seriously, like he's like clearly a patient.
Yeah.
I would assume from a mental ward, or he's just shit faced because like he's just sitting and riding the elevator. And where did he get that hamburger from? It
Yeah.
makes no sense.
I have no idea. No idea. Because he's always drinking something. He's always
Mhm.
drinking alcohol. He's obviously dressed in
Like a gown,
the
right?
gown
Yeah.
thing. Um
Just wandering the halls, riding the elevators, just uh,
kind of kind of weird, right?
yes.
So what's even weirder though is Hal in real life. His name is Lanny Duncan, and he doesn't have too many credits as an actor, but he wrote a song called Let's Go, and it's in Avengers Endgame.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that
Wow.
weird?
That is. probably like of all of our episodes, that's got to be one of the weirdest like industry ties that I've ever heard.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's from a band called The Routers. I've never heard of
Hmm.
it before, and I don't even remember what the hell song it was in
No,
Avengers.
but the fact that
Um,
it made it in there, I mean, good for him, boy. You came a long way from playing the sloppy Joe eating drunk in X-Ray.
exactly. Maybe I'll try to find a snippet and throw it in at the end or something like that.
That'd be
So,
awesome.
I now got Avengers on the mind. So Hal is eating this burger and he's kind of, giving Susan some flirtatious shit or
Hmm.
whatever. Susan gets to the top of the elevator and it's like floor 9 and these people in gas masks come out and they're like, "Oh, we're fumigating this floor. Like you got to get out of here
Oh my
or else you're
God.
going to get deloused." And it's
There's
not.
just so much. Okay, there's so much wrong here. First of all, are these idiots? There's like three guys wearing gas masks,
Yeah,
and they're right there. Like, were they waiting for someone to open the elevator door and to tell them to leave?
maybe they heard it and they all ran over there to like.
Yeah, okay, I buy that, but that completely glosses over the fact that why are they fumigating an entire floor of a hospital while there are other floors in operation?
Yes.
And they haven't like sealed off, like turned off the elevator for that floor, or like I don't even think you can do that without proper. Like, can you seal off an entire floor of a building while keeping the rest like working,
Also,
especially
I
a
think
hospital?
the number, the to press in the elevator, it would be non-operational.
You would think, right? It's just it make oh god, this is like of all the dumb things in this movie, that's probably one of the dumbest. Like the idea that you could fumigate a floor. I'm no extermination expert, but I don't think that that's a thing.
It also doesn't really provide anything for the movie as well. It never really goes
No,
anywhere with like, "Hey, this floor has poison on it."
yeah, okay, I gave that a lot of thought. The only thing that I could come up with was it was an excuse to have an entire floor of the hospital be creepy and dark and smoky.
Yes, because they do use that to
Right?
for
Yeah.
quite a bit in the
A
movie.
couple times later, yeah. I mean, that's and it's far from a good excuse, but that's the only thing I could come up with because they needed hospitals normally look really brightly lit and clean and sterile. They needed an excuse to have a creepy, spooky, haunted wing. I guess I don't know.
Haunted Wing. That's what the movie should have been called.
Oh,
Haunted Wing.
I'd watch that. I'd watch anything instead of this piece of shit.
Man, I love the hate coming from you.
Oh yeah.
So Susan, she presses her real floor. She needs to go to floor 8, and someone turns off the elevator. There's like just a switch, and you just see a hand come out, and it
Hmm.
just turns it off.
Right.
Uh, Meanwhile, the doctor that Susan's trying to go see, Dr. Jacobs, she's called up to the 9th floor. How does
Hmm.
this doctor not know that that floor is being fumigated?
You would think, right?
You
There's a
would think
lot of
that
thinking that doesn't happen in this movie
all the doctors would have been in the know, like, hey, we can't go up to floor 9 because it's being fumigated.
because it's covered in poisonous
Yes.
gas.
Dr. Jacobs, though, she's just a badass and she gives no fuck
Gives no
about it.
fucks. She looks
And
like her haircut looks like Ziggy Stardust, like that
yes,
David Bowie haircut. I kept calling her David or Dr. Bowie in my notes because of the haircut.
so the Dr. Jacobs is played by an actress named Gay Austin. This is the only film that they ever did because I'm not even joking here. She died February 16th, 1983. She died 2 years
What?
after this movie.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I saw the name in the credits, Gay Austin, and I was like, I need to know who that was. Um,
Jeez. I mean, it's an unfortunate name nowadays
yeah.
anyway, but the fact that she died after like well, this wasn't her last credit before that, was she?
This was
Is that
the only credit.
the only oh
Yeah, this was it.
now I
She
feel
made
bad
it
for making fun of her haircut.
she made it into a slasher movie that she was like, this is gonna be the next Friday the 13th.
What a
Only for it to be
legacy.
a stinker. So
Oh,
Dr. Jacobs is kind of trolling around the 9th floor, walking through the poison, and you can tell she knows that there's poison because she puts like a rag up to her face and she's trying to breathe
right.
through it. Um, she goes through a medical room. Obviously, there's spooky medical stuff. It's It's a skeleton.
Ooh, the haunted wing.
It's yeah, the haunted wing. It's a
Ugh.
it's a dummy underneath a sheet, and it looks like a dead body.
Yes. Just like
Oh,
all the terrible like classic like fake out horror movie things you could possibly think of are crammed into this room.
yep. There's a spooky sound coming from a a locker. She goes over to
Yep.
open it, and then the killer doctor comes out of nowhere and just stabs her, and there's blood just flying all over the place.
Yeah. This is like I think the really the only like diamond in this like shit rough of a movie are the kills. Like the kills are actually not bad,
Yeah,
especially comparing to like I was re-listening to our Schizoid episode the other day, and I was remembering from that movie how little blood there was. Like the kills were just so much of a letdown for
yep.
what you kind of go to a cheesy slasher movie for. But this one actually delivers on a couple of its kills, and this was like a good first kill because like you're not kidding. This guy's getting drenched in blood as he's
Yes.
bringing the knife down.
It was a pretty good blood splatter.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure.
if you asked me, Greg, this is the only kill that needed to happen in the entire film. And I'll kind of explain why as we go along.
Okay.
Um, the killer doctor runs down to Dr. Jacob's office and puts a fake Susan file on the desk and
Right.
takes away the real one. Um, and we'll come to see why a little bit later. Susan starts smoking in a in a hospital because
Oh
that's
my
what you could
God.
do in the 80s.
That actually got like a legit out loud laugh. As a couple things in this movie did, but that was the first one where just like the casual like lighting up of a cigarette in like a busy hospital hallway. It's just
Yes,
like, oh, how quaint.
cancer wasn't a thing in the 80s, I
Ha ha
guess.
ha.
So then we find the janitor. He's up on the ninth wing, breathing
Again,
in the poison.
the poison wing of the hospital.
Yes.
Jesus.
He sees a body and there's like red stuff all over the place, but it's just a can of red paint that's leaking.
Fuck this movie. First the ketchup and now red paint. Come on.
Yeah. A very, very bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Goes to the locker, opens up and sees the dead body.
Ah.
Whoa, no. You know what? I'm about to amend my thing. This is the last kill that needed to happen because he
Okay.
found the dead body, right?
Right. Gotta
So
cover it up.
he goes out to the hallway and the killer doctor's there. And the killer doctor starts speed walking down the hall like he has to shit and he needs to get to the toilet.
It does have that kind of look to it, like where he's got his ass cheeks all clenched
Yeah.
up.
The janitor's following him and then they go into a room. The doctor is strangling him from behind and there's just a pool of acid in a sink
Right, kind of like a bubbling green liquid.
and he shoves the janitor's face in it and he like immediately dies. I don't
Yeah,
think he would immediately die. There would also obviously be like a lot of suffering, but when he pulls
oh,
his
for sure.
face out, I think the effect is pretty neat.
It looks great. Yeah.
He's got, his face is obviously melting. He's got, like yellow viscous stuff coming out of his mouth.
Oh
It
yeah,
looks pretty cool.
really great makeup. Again, like the kills in this movie are consistently good. They're almost out of place with how shitty the rest of it is.
Yeah.
And you know what this reminded me of? This kill was that one in Jason X where the lady gets her
Yes.
face shoved into like a pool of liquid nitrogen and then Jason, smashes it on a table. It wasn't quite as good as that, but it was pretty good
Love it. I love that one.
for sure.
The killer doctor is out in the hallway thrashing. He is so pissed. I think because
Yeah.
he had to kill this person. Like obviously it seems like he's
Yeah.
upset about killing.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. At the time I was thinking more like he was pissed that he's having to kill more than he wanted to. Like I don't think he felt remorse about it. I think he was just pissed that someone saw him and now he's like that's one more body he's got to deal with.
He's like, I'm a bad murderer. The
I've been a bad
janitor
boy.
found him in like 2 minutes.
Geez, that locker is you wouldn't think that you think that would be a good hiding place, hiding a body in a locker on the floor that no one should be on. But
Yes,
janitors sniffed it out pretty quick, didn't they?
pretty quick.
Pretty quick.
Susan is calling the ex-husband, and the ex-husband's just stabbing the shit out of an orange. The daughter's like, answer the phone. Maybe it's mommy. And the ex-husband's like, no, that's
I
not
don't
going
want
to
to talk
happen.
to her.
Yeah. We cut outside and her fiance is sleeping in the car. It's now
Yes.
nighttime too, so there's obviously been quite some time that has passed.
Right.
Uh, the the movie starts getting a little, in my opinion, even weirder at this point. There's a lot of, I think there's supposed to be gags that just don't land right. Susan's kind of walking around the hospital. She goes into one room. There's just kind of like patients moaning and stuff. And
Yeah.
this doctor comes up and he's like, What are you doing? What are you looking for?" They're like, "I'm looking for Dr. Jacobs. Go try the doctor's lounge." And she goes down to the doctor's lounge, and there's a very friendly guy doctor that's in there. His name is Harry.
Yep. Harry.
Harry seems like a really cool guy. Harry's played by Charles Lucia, who's been in a couple other movies, one of them being Tank Girl. I don't know if you remember that one.
I haven't seen Tank Girl. No.
It's not that good. But he was also in Star Trek, The Next Generation, in the episode Man of the People. He was Ambassador Ves Alcar.
Yep.
He was
Yep.
also in Star Trek Voyager in the episode Alliances, where he played Mavis.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely where I recognized him from. But, I mean, shocker there, right? Like I knew he was been a ton of Star Trek too. I think
Shocker.
he
Greg
was
knows him from a Star Trek thing.
it was one of those like he's one of those faces. I mean, typical character actors from this era, but like I knew he was in Star Trek for sure. I did have to look up which ones he was in though, to be fair. And he was actually in more episodes than I thought he was. I was expecting it was just, kind of like one villain of the week, but yeah, the fact that he was in a couple is pretty cool.
He's a Star Trek guy. Hopefully we'll see him in a new Star Trek Kelvin timeline film.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love if they started bringing back all these like repeat character actors from the early 90s
Obscure.
series.
Remember that obscure character from the Next Generation? Here he is.
Here he is again. No one's gonna recognize him because it's nothing, a completely different generation who's watching the show. But sure,
It's fan service at its best.
perfect.
So Susan's like, "Hey, I'm looking for Dr. Jacobs." Harry seems like a pretty swell guy. They're gonna go look for Dr. Jacobs. Really help out this Susan lady. So they go
What a chum.
and he goes into Dr. Jacobs' office and he finds the file and he's reading it and he looks concerned. He reads the file, he looks at Susan, he holds up some x-rays, get it? Because the movie's called X-Ray.
Wink, wink.
He looks at some x-rays. She has stuff in her body. Uh
It almost looks like there's like a really small slinky
yeah,
throughout her entire intestinal tract.
I don't get what we're looking at. I've
Uh,
seen x-rays before. Obviously, throughout my medical history, I've seen pictures of the insides of me. My intestines don't look like that.
no,
So
something's definitely wrong.
something is really weird. So Harry and Susan, they got to find another doctor. They got to find the doctor who I thought, spoilers, I thought this was the killer throughout the entire film. And I was really upset when it turned out not to be this guy.
Right. Dr. Saxon.
Dr. Saxon.
Yes.
Dr. Saxon's a little bit older. He's got some gray hair, but he honestly looks just like guy number one, right?
Yeah, he's got the exact same look that both the fiance and the ex-husband do. This kind of like the middle length hair, dark brown, no facial hair, dark brown eyes, like the most generic looking dude you can imagine.
Yep. And he's played by John Warner Williams. And this is pretty much it. He was in an episode of The Incredible Hulk and General Hospital. Didn't really do much. Not surprised. Kind of, despite being in the movie for quite some time, just a
Yes.
very bland guy. So Harry shows Dr. Saxon the medical information. Dr. Saxon seems kind of pissed. He's like, "I've got enough patients." But Harry's like, "Hey, take a look at this. There's obviously like this, she's fucking dying."
Yeah, like whispers into her ear, which again, like she can probably hear them, and she's cool as a cucumber through this entire thing. When these two doctors, like, if I were sitting in a doctor's office and a doctor was looking at my X-ray, and he got this like ghostly look on his face, and he started to look really concerned, like I think I would probably ask, "What's wrong?
Yeah.
Like, am I dying? What's up?" Like I would be able to read that cue.
We'll talk about a little bit of my medical history here. There is a one point I had two testicles, and I remember when I was getting the one, both I had to get both of them ultrasounded because they wanted to see, compare and contrast. Obviously, like what does a healthy one look like? What does a non-healthy one look like?
I
And I
don't know.
remember when they got to the non-healthy one, you could actually hear like the pulse of your blood flow, right? Because there's like
Right.
veins and stuff like that. When they got over to the left one, it was very faint, and the nurse who was doing the ultrasound got very intense, and the room got very quiet. And she put her hand on my shoulder, and that's when I knew something horrible was going wrong inside of me.
So, okay, yeah, that's a great example, especially a good personal example. Like
Yes,
nothing was said, but you read the energy in the room, the silent cues, the body language, the facial expressions. You knew that something was wrong as soon as it
yes,
happened. This lady in the movie, she's getting all of those cues like practically like right in front of her face. And no, she does not get it. She's just kind of like, I wonder what's for dinner tonight. La la la.
exactly. She's more worried about how long this is all going to take, as
Exactly.
opposed to the fact that she might die from these
Whatever is,
medical records.
yeah, like whatever is in those records is freaking these doctors the fuck out.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Dr. Saxon's like, hey, we're probably gonna have to do a couple more tests. So Susan, she calls back home. Her daughter answers. She's like, oh, it's only me here. Daddy left. And
Dun dun
okay, bump,
dun.
bump, bum,
More unnecessary doubt sown and a random male character.
creepy stuff. So a couple nurses come and take Susan away, and they take her to a medical, like a checkup room, right? Because I think they call it an examination room, which is kind of weird that they just don't do it in Dr. Saxon's own office. That there's a whole room dedicated
Yeah,
to doing
like
this physical.
this whole like the geography of this movie is bad in general, but this
It
is a really
is.
confusing part where like they're okay, like Harry brings her to Dr. Saxon's office. They look at the thing, they freak out, and then Dr. Saxon's like, wait here for a second, and they all leave, and she's in the office, and then that's when she goes to make that call. And then nurses go to get her and bring her to a different office that Dr. Saxon has for some reason switched to on a different floor. It makes no sense. Like, why not just stay in that room? Why did you
Yes.
switch an office? They're like identical offices.
So it this is probably one of the most unneeded and longest scenes in the movie. Uh,
Yeah.
Susan gets undressed behind this curtain, and Dr. Saxon starts performing basically a physical. Now, I'm pretty sure this doesn't happen, but when he starts conducting the physical, she's totally, besides her underwear, she is naked.
Yes.
And
It's yeah.
the scene goes on for 7 minutes and 10
It
seconds.
is excruciatingly long and slow.
He's not wearing gloves. He's touching her all over her skin. And
It's just you know how in a lot of these canon movies, the ones we've seen, but I'm sure the ones that we're going to see later throughout this series, like in those movies where it's clearly they need an excuse for TNA in the movie,
yep.
right? And a lot of the ways that they do that, it's typically something sleazy and horrible like a rape scene, which is not it like tonally, it's really sleazy and gross to do it that way because you're not supposed to be like, as the audience member, you're supposed to be seeing a rape scene and being uncomfortable and like offended. But you clearly they're putting it in there to give the audience a hard on basically, and
Oh, yeah.
that's what this scene felt like. It felt exploitative and just a reason to get her top off basically.
Exactly. We know that she's a Playboy model. You probably could have
Right.
done that scene in like a more, like, I guess, sexual and better way,
Right.
as opposed to like, hey, just take your top off and
For
let
an
me do a
exam.
physical.
It's like, okay, it's Valentine's Day. There is so much you could do with that. Like
Yes.
throw in a cheesy love scene between the fiance or something. Just anything other than trying to sexualize a medical exam for a woman who's got some serious disease.
Yeah.
It's just, it, it's so stupid.
Nothing appealing about it. Uh,
No,
Eventually, she gets her hospital gown, which it looks like it's
eventually.
a mini skirt
Oh yeah,
too.
it's way too short. Normally those things are like down to your ankles, right? This
Yeah.
thing is like right off at like practically her crotch.
They want you to know that Susan's an attractive woman.
Yes.
The room that she's given a hospital room too. They're like, hey, just wait here until your test results. She's in a room with three super old women who look so upset at life.
Yeah.
Um,
This one lady's like slapping spoons together. She's got this like old gypsy lady costume on for some reason.
yeah, another one's like fondling her rosary.
Yeah.
We cut to the killer doctor pushing down a basket of bodies down the ninth floor.
As you do.
Um, and that's pretty much that scene. Then we cut
Yep.
back. The ex-husband's back home, kisses the daughter goodnight. I guess that just goes to show you that the ex-husband's not the killer, because how could he be in two starkly different geolocations at one time?
Exactly. So why did we need this stupid horror movie, doubt that we put in like 2 scenes ago for that guy? It makes
Yeah.
no sense.
Then we cut to a nurse. She's doing like blood work and typing stuff up on a typewriter,
Hmm.
and her friend is like, "Hey, it's like let's go get coffee or something like that." She's like, "No, you go ahead. I got work to do." Then the
Right.
killer doctor jumps out from behind a door and throttles her to death, and then changes some paperwork around. Now,
Right.
why not? Why not just go in as the normal doctor and be like, "Hey, nurse, I need you to do nurse stuff outside this office," and then just switch the paperwork around.
Yeah, you would think that there would be a non-murder route to getting what you want here. Like
Yep.
clearly, like you said, he's trying to do more to like falsify some medical records like he did earlier in Dr. Jacobs' office. He's trying to put in a fake transcript or something into the typewriter to make it look legit. Like there are so many better ways you could do that without having another body to dispose of.
And honestly, like this was it. This was like the final cinch in the killer doctor's master plan. It's the blood work, right? Like that's what
Mhm.
they're waiting on.
Can we?
So
I have to say, there's okay. There's like 2 things that really bug me in this scene. At this point, I'm like going through this movie with a fine tooth comb because I already hate it. But there are 2 things in this that really bugged me. First of all, as she's typing before the other nurse comes in, she's eating clearly a Granny Smith apple. Clearly, she
okay.
takes a bite out of it and puts it down and starts typing again. The nurse comes in. Hey, do you want to go get coffee? She says, no. "Hey, can I bring you anything else?" She says, nope, I got my pear. And she holds up a completely different piece of fruit. That apple just transmogrified into a pear, and
Well,
I hate it.
it's because the Apple bombed before this movie.
Oh, so this is part of the Apple extended universe.
Yes.
Okay, cinematic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that
Uh
explains that. I'm satisfied now. The
so
the other thing that was really bugging me in this scene was did you see where she pulled the blood samples out of?
no, was it like a closet or
It was a
something or
goddamn closet. And she just pulled these like vials in a wooden rack out of like a closet that's full of like paperwork and tools. Like that's not where you store blood samples. They're just out in open air.
yeah.
That makes no sense. And she's
They
like looking at them. Yes, science, science, science.
they also have like the
Uh,
cork tops to
yeah,
them
the
too.
old cork tops. Like they're clearly really old, like test tube medical props, but they would have
Yeah,
made more sense in a hospital from like the 19 aughts, right? It's
exactly.
comically outdated.
Now, the one of the arguments that I have about this movie actually revolves around spoiling the end. Do we want to spoil the end before the end?
Honestly, I hate this movie now. Like, fuck this movie. Yeah,
Okay.
spoil away. If you
So
haven't seen it, listeners, go watch it. Pause the podcast, then come back.
Hal is actually Harold, the boy from the beginning who killed, or Harry. Harry is actually Harold, the boy who killed Susan's friend in the
Surprise,
beginning of the film.
surprise.
So Harold, Harry, the killer
Harry.
doctor, killed the nurse, puts the fake paper in the typewriter, comes back as Harry and gathers the information. Why couldn't he, as Harry, just gather the information
Yes.
and then swap out the piece of paper?
It makes no fucking sense. Because you're right. Like, there's no one in the room. He killed the only witness. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, he didn't have to do that to begin with. He could have just come in without a mask on when no one was in the room and, or gotten her away somehow, like you said. But like,
He could have,
okay, there's no reason he's by himself. Just walk out with a piece
yeah,
of paper, take your
he could
mask off.
he could have gotten everything from the nurse, gone to the fucking bathroom, threw away the official report, and put the fake one inside of there.
And no one suspects him at this point. Like
Yeah.
he's been perfectly reasonable for him to have gone down to the nurse, gotten the paperwork, and moved it for her. I mean, again, so many better, more intelligent ways that this character could have accomplished what he was trying to accomplish.
Yep.
It was just a lazy excuse for
For
another
another
kill.
kill.
Yep.
So he shows Dr. Saxon and the bald doctor from earlier, and they're like, "Yep, test results. This is not good." Cut back to the nurse. She goes inside the office and she's like, "Oh man, my nurse friend is dead," and she starts running through the hallway screaming.
Help!
I,
Help!
I thought this kill was pretty funny. So Harry like strangles her to death with a stethoscope
Yep.
and puts her in a wheelchair and just shoves her right in the
He
room.
does. Like he takes so much pain earlier to like hide the body or dispose of it in some way. He literally, like you said, he shoves her in a wheelchair and just like launches her into an open closet right in the hallway and just walks away. Doesn't even
Yeah.
close the door.
Really, really weird. Susan is now talking to Dr. Saxon again. They're inside her room. And she's like, "Do you know what's wrong with me?" And Dr. Saxon's like, "No." And she's like, "Is it bad though?" "No. That's illegal. Doctors have to tell you if like they can't lie to you about your diagnosis."
Oh yeah, he lied to her face.
Yeah. And they're pretty much saying you're going to be staying here for a bit so we can observe you. All the creepy old women are like saying how terribly sick and like hideous Susan is.
Yeah.
It really weird. I love the old woman squad. It's great.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're in it a couple scenes too, both before this and after this. And you're right. They add is stupid as they are, narratively, they're just fun to watch.
Yeah.
Golden
So
Girls.
Harry or Susan eventually finds Harry in the hallway, and they're like, "Oh, my test results are wrong. They're lying." And Harry's like, "Okay, like let's go to Dr. Jacob's office and we can look through her medical files."
Right. Because
As
she suspects, I guess at this point, she suspects some foul play. So yeah, like we'll go look over the originals.
as they're trying to jimmy open the lock, who you think would be the killer doctor peeps in, but it's not, because Harry the killer is in the room with Susan. Kind of
Yeah.
weird that another doctor in like the full face mask thing would come in and peep in at that time.
Yeah.
Again, it makes me think that maybe there was multiple endings to this and they just chose Harry, because Harry, the killer, is so changeable at the end that it doesn't really matter,
Yeah. Like
right?
the killer is so covered up with surgical gear that you're right. And all these guys again look practically identical. Like you're right. They could definitely have made it anyone on the male cast and it would have been believable.
Because there's another moment where you think that Harry's going to bite it. Harry goes in to talk to Dr. Saxon after they get
Right.
the medical files, and he's talking on the phone, and it's like, "Come up to the ninth floor." And then you hear the chanting, like evil chanting in the soundtrack. And it's kind of
Right.
like, okay, he's dead. He's
This
going to
is the
die
kill
now.
music. Yeah.
This is the kill music. Exactly. Uh, we cut outside. Susan's fiance finally wakes up and he goes into the hospital to find Susan. And I think this is like one of the more believable parts of it. Susan is like, "Fuck it, we're leaving."
Oh yeah, like the only bit of agency this character has in the entire movie. She's like, yeah, no, I didn't check in. I'm not gonna check out. We're leaving.
Exactly. I never asked for this.
Yep.
So as they start leaving the hospital, Dr. Saxon is there and he's like, "Get her, nurses," and they drag her away. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. You can check out of a hospital whenever you want.
Yeah, like
I don't.
unless they're committing her, which they've no grounds to do at this point
Yeah.
or later. Like, yeah, you can't do that.
I don't really know hospital rules, but I think even if I went there with like, I have cancer. I think if I went there and I was like, okay, I'm just done. They
Yeah,
can't go,
they can't force you to
no,
stay
you
there.
have to stay. I'm like, nah, I'm done. I
Yeah,
think
no,
people
like
do that. I don't know.
yeah, exactly.
Really weird. Uh, so the fiance is talking with Dr. Saxon. Dr. Saxon's like, you know what? Just go to my office and wait and we'll talk. And then out of nowhere, the PA system's like, hey, that guy in the hallway, answer the phone.
Well, the gentleman waiting in the hall on the 8th floor, please pick up the hallway phone.
How many people could potentially be waiting in the hallway?
Okay, again, not only is the geography of this movie stupid and confusing, but the time also is because it's like the middle of the night
Yeah.
now. And I mean, first of all, why would they have why would they let this guy visit at all? Like he just waltzes right in. He's like, receptionist, I'm looking for a patient. She directs him right to the spot. But like again, you're right. It's clearly the middle of the night. Not only should he not be visiting, but if he is, he's got to be the only one there.
Oh, yeah. So again, I've been to Georgetown Hospital when my wife was admitted there. In the middle of the night, there's no one there. And that's a
Yeah,
huge hospital. There's just no one there. There's the hospital staff, obviously, all working, but
right. The
I
overnight
was like the
nurses. Yeah.
only visitor that was there. It was, yeah. So I don't know.
It makes
Really weird.
Actually, that reminds me, before I forget, I think it was before this where someone gets called up to the ninth floor. Did you catch what room number they called them to?
No, what was it? Was it
It
like
was
42069?
no, that would have been great though. Less groany than this one. It was room 911.
Uh,
911.
emergency.
Huh, huh, huh. Get it? That's the murder room.
It's a joke.
God, fuck this movie.
It was so subtle that I didn't even get it. Oh, no, it was this guy.
Was it
This
this
guy,
guy,
he
Dr.
gets called
Saxon?
to
Or was
room
it this guy? Okay.
911.
Yeah, okay. I knew it was right around this time. I couldn't remember if it was him or Dr. Saxon before that.
Yep. So
Okay.
he goes into the stairwell and Hal's there drinking, acting
Just
like a boss. I love Hal. I hope he lives.
he's a loose cannon, man. He's just hanging out, drinking in the stairwell.
Yeah.
A patient, mind you.
The fiance goes into the ninth floor. It is jam packed with smog and smoke. He is dying from this poison that's filling his lungs.
And like again, not only is the elevator floor, the elevator button to this floor not disabled, but there's the stairwell doors are not roped off or
Yeah,
blocked in any way. You could just wander right up and get blasted with smoke as soon as you open the door.
I love it. And
Uh,
it almost started turning into a comedy at this point because then the old woman
100%.
squad shows up and they're on the ninth floor too.
Just wandering the halls at
Yeah.
night.
They're just shuffling and they're like, they even comment, they're like, oh, you look like a fine young man. And they just start shuffling
Oh,
away, getting high as shit off of that poison.
maybe that's why everyone in this hospital is acting batshit insane, is because they've been huffing the fumes that have just been trickling down, percolating through each floor from the ninth
I don't
all
know.
day long.
It's so weird. It's so weird. And if you think it that if you thought meeting the squad in the hallway was weird, this scene was even weirder. The fiance enters a room and silhouetted by like a hospital what is it, like a hospital curtain, we
Oh,
see
like a modesty curtain, yeah.
yeah, we see someone sitting in a wheelchair and they're like, is Susan your fiance? Can you touch her wherever you want? Do you touch all of her secret places? Do you
Ugh.
touch her most desirable places? The fiance is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Goes around the curtain. It's one of the dead nurses. The killer doctor comes up from behind him and has like a mini, I'm assuming it's like to cut your skull or something like that.
Yeah, it
It's
looked like a motorized bone saw or something. A skull saw.
skull saw.
Skull
And
saw coming to a theater near you.
I would watch that.
Rated
The,
R.
the Harry, the killer doctor, slices him across the neck, and then we see like the outline or the silhouette of him murdering, and it honestly looks like they're kind of humping, but there's blood splatters going on and
Yeah, hitting
stuff.
the curtain. Yeah.
It's
This is one of
it's
the more
really,
disappointing kills, I think. The bone saw was kind of cool, but I was kind of disappointed that we didn't see it because we've already established like they're not shy about showing the graphic violence.
they've already
I was a little
showed
disappointed.
boobs for like 5 solid minutes.
That's true.
Why skimp on that cutting off the head?
They've already jumped off the sleaziness cliff. Just enjoy it.
So the killer doctor puts a Valentine next to Susan's bed. Susan wakes up, she opens it up. It's the fiance's head inside.
Dun, dun,
I
dun.
love that. I like that gag. I love gags like that because there was one like that in My Bloody Valentine where they open it up, they open up the box, and it's like a heart. And
Yeah,
they're
it's a
like,
heart. Yeah.
he was like the sheriff and the mayor, and they're like, "Oh God, it's happening again!
It's happening
It's
again.
it's starting all over. It's Harry
Yeah.
Gordon."
I feel like it's one of those that is one of those gags that doesn't get old. Like
No,
whenever you see someone opening a present in a horror movie slowly with tense music, you know there's going to be like a severed head or a body part or something in there, and it's always fun.
it's always so good. Susan bolts. She's running down the hallways, screaming her head off, and then Dr. Saxon comes up and he's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And then did you hear the sound effects? He smacks her, Greg.
Oh yeah, it was like you remember that gag in Airplane where the plane is going down and the woman starts to freak out and everyone is like lining up to try and calm her down and shake her and like the people waiting in line have guns and whips and
Yes.
like boxing gloves and things like and they all are slapping her every single time like that's what this like it was you're right it was this is movie's full on comedy at this point because it's like comically hysterical the way that this woman is behaving and the fact that the doctor slaps her to
Yeah.
calm her down it's yeah.
Susan would own that fucking hospital.
Oh yeah, lawsuits at the wazoo.
So Dr. Saxon gets her back to her room and he's like, "Let's go ahead and open this box." And it's a cake. And it says "Be mine" on it.
I'm not crazy. It was a head.
Yeah. Dr. Saxon's like, "Okay, give her some pills." And she like fake swallows them.
Classic.
Classic. Susan knows how to trick nurses because obviously these nurses don't know how to do their job.
No, they don't. Yeah, that's the thing. Like in all those other movies where you see like mental patients being forced to take their meds, they always like open your mouth, look under your tongue. Very good.
Yep.
Make sure they took their pill.
Susan goes to the elevator. She's trying to call it. It doesn't show up, and she hears the shuffling of a psycho doctor coming from somewhere, and she hides behind a modesty curtain. I like that word. I'm going to use
Another
it.
one.
Modesty
Yep.
curtain.
Modesty
They're just
curtain.
everywhere too.
They are everywhere. Yeah.
It's almost like it's like a video game where it's like
Like
boxes are just randomly everywhere,
you
so
know
you
that
can
they're
hide behind them.
yeah, exactly. Like intentionally there for cover or hiding or something. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, gee whiz. I wonder what
The
this is here for a movie.
the doctor, the Harry Harold shows up with a medical hatchet. I don't know why he has a medical hatchet. I don't even know if a medical hatchet's a real thing.
Yeah, this was a kind of a weird tool. It was like it's like a solid piece of steel. It almost
Yeah.
looks like.
It looks like you would chop wood with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She's kind of like watching him from like the corner of the curtain, and the Harry, gets in front of the curtain. She drops her lighter, which is really weird. There's this foot struggle to get the lighter as
Oh
Harry
yeah.
walks by it. Really weird scene because Harry probably would never have noticed it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he didn't already notice her feet sticking out from under the curtain, like he's not gonna notice a small lighter on the floor.
Exactly. Uh, so Susan gets into the stairwell, and sadly, Hal turns into a bit of a creep at this moment. He kind of gets a little rapey, and he's like, "Hey, baby, let's have some fun, and like, why
Yeah.
don't you stick around? You can be a patient here. It's really great."
Still
Uh,
hanging on the stairwell.
Hanging out on the stairwell, drinking booze.
Yeah.
He's got the life. He just needs to clean up the forced sexual aggression.
Come on, Hal.
Yeah. Dr. Saxon, meanwhile, is in a different, totally place that we've never seen inside the hospital, looking through files, and he finds Susan's file, and his eyes go wide as he realizes Susan probably shouldn't be here. Uh, but
Finally.
Harry, the killer doctor, hacks him right in the head, and it
Right
is
in the back of the head.
awesome.
Yeah,
He
another
starts
great kill.
he starts like you can see his hand spasming on the ground when he hits it, and there's like gurgling and gargling and blood coming out.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the sound effects on this part were definitely really well thought out because yeah, like you said, the
so
kind of
good.
gargling, kind of like a groan, and Yeah, kind of what you would think from like a horrible blow to the head.
Yeah.
Really well done.
Susan is freaking out. She's like, "Oh, they killed Dr. Saxon. Dr. Saxon's dead." What do medical professionals do? The best thing ever. They tie her down to a fucking bed.
Okay, strap her down. She's clearly crazy.
I'm pretty sure if you were in a hospital and was like, "Hey, someone got murdered," they'd probably investigate it. I don't think that you would get tied down immediately.
No, yeah, you think like, I mean, that's kind of an emergency situation that you would probably want to check on before you start making rash decisions about someone's mental state.
Yeah, really
Priorities, people.
kind of odd. Uh, so we're really down to two doctors now, Harry and this bald doctor who has
Bald mustache
no
doctor.
name. Bald
Yeah.
mustache doctor.
Yes.
We cut to the lamest kill and lamest like scare in the entire film.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know you're going.
Imagine a long hallway shot, and at the end, you see a bed sheet coming towards you, and you can see silhouetted behind it a man holding it up.
Running towards you, holding a sheet in front of him.
Yes, not even running, walking a
Power
little
walking.
bit faster than normal. A nurse sees it, and she starts lightly jogging away, screaming. And she's like, "No, please stop." And then she just stops running, accepting
Yeah.
her fate.
It's like that scene in Austin Powers where they're in the steamroller and
Yes.
it's like running towards the security guard. He's like, no, but it's going so slow. Just get out of the way. Just run away.
Just go into a room. There's like, she's
Yeah,
passing like 1,000 doors that she could probably duck into and lock.
exactly.
Um, so Harry gets the blanket around her and then he injects some kind of substance into her. We don't know what it is, but obviously, like anything that's not already inside your body, probably,
Probably shouldn't
besides
go
like
there. Yeah.
vaccines and stuff, you probably don't need whatever he injected into her.
It looked like Coca-Cola almost.
It
It had
did.
like kind of like a dark brown look.
Do you think if you injected Coca-Cola into yourself, you would die?
Okay, so that's a really interesting hypothetical. Would the content of the Coke kill you first, or would the bubbles kill you first?
I don't know. I think if you didn't hit a vein or anything and you just injected Coca-Cola into like your,
Like subcutaneously or something, like right in your butt cheek or something,
yeah, I think you'd be fine. But if you like got into like your bloodstream, I think you'd die.
you'd be dead. Yeah, I feel like if they were in the bloodstream, the carbonation would probably be the first thing to kill you.
The
One of
carbonation and like the
the-
acid would probably like burn away a heart valve or something, right?
Oh man, can we? Yeah, like people who are listening, send us an email if you're a medical professional and you know that what would happen if you were injected with Coca-Cola. Please write us and let us know because I'm
I
curious.
I'll post that on Reddit. I think there's like a thing called no stupid questions on Reddit. And I'll post on there. If you injected Coca-Cola into your bloodstream, would you die?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe we'll get
And
some
how?
medical advice.
No
And
details.
how?
No details. Spare no details.
Is it traceable? Is Coca-Cola traceable?
I'm asking for a friend.
We
Purely
see
hypothetical.
we see the nurse kind of stumble around, and then eventually she lays down on the floor. She died.
Oh.
Mwah, mwah. Then mustache bald doctor is looking at X-rays, and then out of nowhere, through like a modesty screen, he gets stabbed through the back of the skull, and it comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, this okay. I we've said a couple times how good the kills are in this one, and this one was good, not necessarily because of the like it's creative in any way, but I was genuinely surprised
Same here.
when this happened because there's no tense music. He's just kind of like scrubbing up for some middle of the night surgery, which is stupid when you think about it, but you don't see it coming at all. And then all of a sudden he just like blood just explodes out of his mouth. It was genuinely surprising the way that happened. And I was like, wow, well done, movie. Well
Yeah,
done.
unless it's like an emergency, you don't really have like surgeries in the
At night.
nighttime.
Yeah. They're clearly not in an ER.
Yeah, I think my surgery to remove literally cancer was at like 4 o'clock on
Yeah.
a Monday,
Like
and
they
the doctor
schedule
was
it
like,
during business hours.
"Yeah," and the doctor was like, "This is like usually the latest we ever do these things because it takes a couple hours to do it."
Right.
Um, so we cut to the Harry, the killer doctor. He goes into Susan's room and she's strapped down and he pushes her away and they get into an elevator and he has like his hand over his mouth, and they go into this operating room on the ninth floor, and it's all
Uh,
smoky and moody and all the other
Fumigating.
yeah, they're all dying from poison. And as Harry grabs a medical device, Susan pulls off his mask and he's like, "It's me. I'm Harold. Do you remember? I killed your friend
Oh my
19 years
God.
ago."
Just
And
no respect whatsoever for the intelligence of the audience.
yeah. And just in case you forgot from hour and 28 minutes earlier, it cuts back and it shows Harold looking moody
In black and white because it's a
in black.
flashback.
Yeah, in black and white.
God.
Uh, he starts caressing her face, but then the squad shows up and
Oh my God.
distracts
Yeah.
the
The
doctor.
Golden Girl Squad.
Yeah. Susan wastes no time, stabs him right in the gut. Go, Susan.
Oh yeah, with a huge, again, doesn't look like a real surgical tool, but it's like a big old knife.
It looks like the knife she cut the cake with in the beginning of the film.
It's a callback.
It's a callback. Now I think a normal man would die here, but Harry is fueled with creeper rage and
Oh yeah, he sprints out of that room and like
oh yeah.
body checks one of the Golden Girls.
Yep, the squad is cut like they're kind of like crowding the door and he like pushes one of them away. It was really great. And there's like a chase. Harry, despite being a stone cold killer throughout the entire film, turns into a giant pansy and is not capable of doing anything for the rest of the movie. He
Oh
has
no.
like medical devices at his disposal, and he's chasing Susan, but Susan's just a fucking stone cold fox and a stone cold killer herself.
Woo.
She's like climbs up on she's like trying to climb up on like some scaffolding or something like that, and
Right.
she tosses, I'm assuming, acid on his face. It has like the triangle and stuff on it,
Oh yeah,
right?
it's like it looks like acetone or something, some
Yeah.
kind of flammable liquid in a glass jar.
And he yeah, it does say flammable, you're right. And he
Yep.
kind of like he's like blah blah.
Ah!
So Susan again runs away, gets up on top of like the roof area. The geography is kind of weird because
Again, yeah.
I thought they were like in a parking garage or something like that, but it's
Yeah, it's got like I actually thought it was an alley because it's got that look where there's like at the back door to a club or a bar or something,
yeah,
opening into like a dimly lit alley. That's yeah, that's what I thought too. It didn't feel roofy to me.
dimly lit is an understatement. After the moment that Harold checks one of the squad as he busts through the door, the
Wham.
movie is so poorly lit, it's hard to see anything.
Yeah,
It's
you
like
can't see shit.
blobs just moving. Harold pulls that long knife out of his gut like a champ.
Oh yeah, not it doesn't even wince.
Nothing. But don't worry, Susan grabs a big ass metal pipe and just starts beating the shit out of Harold with it.
Yes, he does, or yes, she does.
And then he jumps up, pins her down. She takes that lighter out. This is why they had the lighter scene, because then you would be confused why she's about how she can do this. She pulls her lighter out and lights Harold on fire, and he's like, "Ah,
Fire
ah,
stunt.
I'm on fire." Susan gets to the edge of the building. Harold runs at her. All
Yep.
she does is casually sidestep.
No, it's gonna happen.
Harold flies. Well, Harold doesn't fly. A dummy flies off the side of
He gets lit on fire
roof.
and turns into a dummy on the way down.
And he falls all the way down. Cut to the next day. Susan picks up her daughter and kisses her ex-husband as they embrace and the credits roll. That's right. For some reason, despite the ex-husband not doing anything throughout the entire film, it seems in this one moment there is some reconciliation between them as they embrace. And
So
that
stupid.
is the X-ray.
And like as the credits start to roll, you see like people are just kind of like casually walking in and out of the front door of this hospital.
Yeah.
Like there's like half a dozen or more dead bodies strewn about this hospital. A guy just fell off the fucking roof on fire. Like
There's
this
no
place should be
police.
swarming with police,
Yeah.
fire department and EMTs, and like it should be like bedlam at this hospital right now.
It should.
No, it's back open for business. No big deal.
Yep. I
Ugh.
I think the biggest things that I have is yes, the no police involvement whatsoever throughout the entire film.
Nope.
The embrace with like the ex-husband at the end, I don't really get it.
Totally unbelievable.
Again, it seems like Harold at the end was just chosen to be the killer. I can't see in the credits to dispute my claim, but I don't think that the killer was Harold in the costume at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I know they, in some other movies, they intentionally do that so that you don't like figure it out before they want you to figure it out by based on how they look or their eye color or something.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, I guess I wouldn't, I guess I would have assumed this movie would be dumb enough to actually put him in that costume, but they didn't.
And like, I think it would have been better if Harold, I don't know, because obviously they set up for Harold to be the killer because he's the killer kid in the beginning. And
Right.
obviously you can't have Harold come back later in the film and like be a victim or become the hero. Telegraphing the ending at the very beginning with such a like a stark scene like that, it kind of made the movie a limp noodle.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Um,
It undermined the tension later.
there was no consequences for Harold in the beginning of the film. Susan obviously saw the outcome of what he did. He never went to jail. There was never like a police investigation from that. They just casually
Oh,
ignore
yeah,
murder.
that's a really good point. You'd think that if a kid killed another kid, he would be probably in an institution at least until he was
Yeah.
18. I mean, I feel like we almost would have needed a scene where we see him getting out
Or
of a mental institution or something.
she goes to a hospital that is also a mental institution. Harold
Ah,
recognizes her there and he starts doing
perfect.
stuff.
Right. He's like his anger and rage and psychosis is reawakened and he breaks
Yeah.
out. Man, that would have been so much better.
Or or this, Harold isn't the killer. The kid actually survived the potential killing and he
Oh,
turns out to be the killer. He's like, fucked up in the head because he's like, I almost died and Susan didn't do
right.
shit.
Didn't help me. I was making a racket. I was calling help, and she's like, "Quiet down in there."
Yeah. There's
See,
like there's two better movies crafted and like a different twist that you could have done
so
with
much
it.
potential. Yeah, like okay, this the conversation that we're having now is like a big. It really underscores the main problem that I have with this movie, and that is there is so much potential here that is squandered.
Yeah.
I think you had a similar reaction to the Apple where there were you saw that there was a lot of potential and there was a good movie in there. And do you remember that game for the PlayStation 1 Silent Hill?
Oh yeah.
Of course, right? It's a classic horror game. And in that game, I think that you go into a hospital and it's just such hospitals in general are such like creepy places, even in real life. It's such a like a great, I've always thought it was a great setting to put a horror movie. And I think that's why I'm pissed off at this movie so much, is because there's so much potential, so many cool things that you could do with a hospital themed horror movie. And the fact that this one is so stupid and makes horrible jumps in logic and it just makes no goddamn sense. It's irrationally irritating to me.
It is. It's frustrating because there's movies like Halloween 2 where it's primarily set in a hospital and
Yeah.
it while it's formulaic it uses I can not I can I cannot it use
Iconography,
it uses
symbolism,
very iconic
visuals.
places in a hospital to do spooky stuff
Yeah.
and it just works, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't think too much about it. It just goes, okay, we need to have a kill at like the guard station in the hospital because every hospital has like a guard station. Then we need to have a kill in like, a lab because every hospital has a lab. Okay,
Right.
the nurse station, we need a kill there.
Nurse
This
station,
one
surgical
is
theater, so many cool locations, like you said.
this one's like, okay, poison hallway, another hallway. We'll do it
Office.
again in a hallway, an office.
Ugh.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It was definitely squandered the
yeah,
potential.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, there, like I said, there's a lot of like stupid lines, like a lot of things that make no sense. Even for a horror movie, there's really terrible like leaps in logic, and it's just kind of the movie taken as a whole is what irritates me because it just could have been so much better.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other horror movies set in hospitals, and I can't really think of too many. But yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I think a lot of the potential of this film was 100% wasted.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, so I think, again, this is another one that I tipped it like all other movies we've watched recently. I struggled to come up with a star rating for, because you have to go with, okay, how much, like, I found this one a lot fun, like a lot of fun for us to talk about and think about and kind of rag on. But like, I just, while I was watching it, I was just annoyed because of how badly they were fucking up things that were so obviously set up to be cool. So I mean, it's a one or a two for me.
it's definitely a two for me. This is not one of those films that I'll ever probably revisit in the future.
No, definitely
Um,
not.
and when you think of like slasher movies in the 80s, this is near the bottom of the barrel. It's not the bottom of the barrel, but it's near it. It's really close.
Oh
They don't
yeah.
use the Valentine's Day theme really too much throughout the entire film.
Oh yeah.
Why even
Total
have it?
afterthought.
If
Yeah.
you're not going to go hardcore into it, then why even do it? Look at My Bloody Valentine. The entire film was revolved around the Valentine's Day dance and the teenagers wanting to do it, and the lore and the history of
The
Harry
town.
Warden killing on Valentine's Day and essentially like banning Valentine's Day throughout the
Yeah.
town,
It
right?
was kind of a central plot device, plot point.
This one's just like, hey, you're at a hospital. It's also just happens to be Valentine's Day, right?
Right.
And it's different when you think of it, like if you think of Die Hard. Die Hard is, in it's a Christmas movie for lack of
Right.
a better terms. It doesn't it uses the plot of it being Christmas without smashing it into your face. It's a Christmas party. Like Hans Gruber specifically chose that day to invade Nakatomi Plaza because it's a Christmas party. So the important people are going to be there,
Right.
but
The
not
execs are all
everyone's
there.
going to be there, right?
Hmm.
So like they use the theme of Christmas to the advantage of the story, but this
Right.
one just chooses not to do anything with it.
Oh yeah. Like I feel like the good test of that is if you took all the Valentine's Day crap out of this movie, would any part of the plot or the story not be able to happen all of a
The
sudden?
only gag that wouldn't be able to happen is the head in the box gag.
Right.
But you could change that into anything though.
Oh, make it her birthday.
Yeah,
Done. Or just any present from a
any
secret
present.
admirer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, someone knows that you got admitted here. It's a present.
yeah, get well soon gift or something. I
It,
mean, I don't know.
it's a bunch of crappy chocolate.
Yep.
Yeah.
No reason for it to be Valentine's Day. Not, like you say, I mean, I wouldn't I would probably not even recommend that this movie do more with it. I would just, yeah, just cut it. It like lean into the hospital thing. That's the gem of your idea. Lean
Yeah.
into that stuff more.
It's it's super disappointing.
Yeah, and I think so. Here's the other really annoying thing that as you were talking, it reminded me of the other really big thing, and we talked about it a little bit as we've gone through the review here. But there are so many red herrings and like
Yes.
horror movie tropes where you think it's one thing but it's not, and but really more so the fact that there's so many red herrings in who you think the murderer is. And I wanted to compare it to a whodunit that came out recently called Knives Out, which was fantastic. And
Yes.
it's like it really like made you pine for more in that genre because it was so well done. But like imagine if in Knives Out all of the characters like Jimmy Lee Curtis and Michael Shannon, all of them were like, instead of doing what they did in that movie, which is behave like normal people, they were constantly like caressing guns and knives and behaving really creepily and strangely when they thought no one was watching except for the audience. Like, imagine how horrible that movie would have been if that had happened. That's what this movie was like, where it's like every person was not acting like a normal human being. They wrote these side characters to just do weird horror movie-ish things just to like try and sow doubt about who the actual killer is. It was like the worst way to do a whodunit and to develop a mystery that I've ever seen.
it's spoofed in Club Dread, the Broken Lizard movie. In the very beginning of it, there's like characters that bump into each other, and it like goes into like a slow mo, and it's like boom, and you like they shoot each other like evil looks
Right.
over just mundane events, and that's what the film does. You're 100% correct.
Yeah.
Everyone is acting with like a capital A instead
Oh
of
yeah. And like they can't all be suspects. They you almost need a little bit of that. Like you need maybe if the killer is, Harold, right? But you almost need maybe one or maybe two other guys who could plausibly be the murderer, but like gradually get stripped away.
in
But like,
Friday the 13th, you have Crazy Harold, right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
the
exactly.
crazy guy, and like, okay, it could be him. It also could be uh, Christie, the guy who is running the
Right.
place. But then at the end, you're thrown a total curveball.
Yeah,
It,
exactly. It's set up in a way where they're behaving like normal people, but knowing what you know as the audience, they could be the killers. They've got some motivation, but they're not running like, sneaking glances at people through windows and holding knives and things like obvious stuff like they do in this movie. But like
Knives
every
out,
knives, oh, extra prequel, scalpels out.
scalpels. Nice.
But like every character, every side character, the janitor, nurses never like everyone gets an ominous moment where they get that horror movie sting and the shifty eyes and the suspicious actions. Like everybody is, they try to make everyone in this stupid hospital a suspect. It's
Yes,
annoying.
very annoying. I 100% agree with everything that you're saying.
I feel like I'm ranting in this a little bit more than I normally do, but that's just, again, it goes back to the fact that I've always thought that hospitals would make really great horror movie settings, and I just am very irritated that they ruined it because it's like, again, the kills are so good in this, and everything else is just trash,
Everything else surrounding it is, yeah,
just hot
total
garbage.
garbo.
Yep.
Oh man, Greg, I love hearing you get keyed up about stuff like this.
I feel like it doesn't happen very often, but
It doesn't.
I would have thought that I'd have had this reaction to the Apple, just knowing what I knew about that going into it. But I that's how much I hated this experience. Was I actually had a better time watching the Apple than this
I,
because
I I still contend that there's a good movie in the Apple. We just have to find it.
it's amazing. Like I know exactly how you feel now. Like
Yep.
that's how I feel about X-Ray. That's how I feel about Hospital Massacre.
What did you have a quote? There wasn't a lot of dialogue in the movie, but
There
did you have
wasn't a
like a
ton.
notable quote?
I picked out two quotes for this week, and one is credit to our old lady Golden Girls gang.
Yes.
The part where Susan gets brought in and you think she's going to get committed, she's starting to kind of lose a grip a little bit, and they're starting to like rant about how unhealthy and doomed she is, like kind of classic Omen of Death character that you get in like Friday the 13th, like you mentioned. And the old gypsy lady just goes on a rant, and it's a great quote. I'll read it. She says, young and lovely on the outside, maybe, old and rotten on the inside, putrid and foul. All her bones are decaying, all her organs are rancid, and her blood is as malignant as slime.
I love it.
It's just like on and on and on. And it's so hammy and theatrical. I loved it.
It's it's poetry.
It's pure poetry. Malignant as slime. Shakespeare, eat your heart out. The other one is to Dr. Saxon. So we've already established in this movie how just unrealistic everyone behaves, and especially the doctors. Like they just do not behave like medical professionals that we deal with in our real life. He says at one point when they're all kind of hunched over this over her test results, right, and you start to get that they exchange those nervous glances. Dr. Saxon says he looks at the sheet and he says, "Christ, this is practically a fucking death warrant."
That's right. Yeah. Her diagnosis is so bad. It's like this is a death warrant.
Oh,
I love it.
it was so like it's so unprofessional. Like I think she was in the room. Like she can hear you, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, I don't know many doctors that would do that, but
No, like maybe weirdos would say that behind the scenes when they look at like a really terrible, prognosis. But not out loud, not with other doctors in the room, and certainly not with the patient in the room.
So, all right, here's another story from me.
Phil's
The
Medical History, the podcast.
yes, the moment I got told that I had cancer, the doctor was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's most likely testicular cancer, so we're gonna go ahead and schedule for a surgery." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he was like, "Did no one tell you this?" Like, no.
Oh my God. What a bunch of chuds.
So just know that like doctors are normal people too, and he just assumed that someone told me,
And they mess up.
and
Yeah.
they mess up. Uh,
Okay. Like, not to make light of that situation, but how hilarious would it have been if he pulled out your chart and said, Christ, this is practically a fucking death warrant?
I would have
Oh my God.
like, Doc, what did you just say?
What?
Oh
Like,
no.
oh my God. Like, again, this is another case where if this movie were a comedy, that would have been like on the floor laughing kind of delivery. Like, imagine that line being delivered by Leslie Nielsen in a
Yeah.
doctor's outfit. Pure
Christ.
gold.
This is practically a death warrant.
Yeah, like under his breath with the patient in the room. That would have been
Yeah.
great. But it's just in a horror movie where you sort of expect some characters to behave, especially medical professionals. Like, I don't know. I just thought that was like too off the wall of a line to not include here.
Yeah. All right. Here's another medical thing. Uh, when I had my vasectomy, the wrong doctor came into the room to do it. And he was like, "Why do you have your pants off?" And I was like, "Because I'm getting a vasectomy." And he kind of looks at me and he looks around the room. He's like, "I'm in the wrong office." And then he left.
I'm here for a hysterectomy.
I'm like, "Okay, doc. Thank you."
All right, so we're getting our arms ripped off today, are we? Okay.
Sure.
Let's get those shoulders shaved, boy. Oh my God.
Well, are you ready for this? We're about to have a That's Canon first.
Oh, I'm ready. My body's ready.
Fan mail time. Phil and Greg. Before I started listening to this podcast, I really didn't know anything about canon films. I like a wide variety of movies, and I like this podcast because I can watch most of the movies streaming and watch stuff I may have not tried before.
We're sorry.
Yes,
But,
I'm
but
100% sorry.
but we're glad you didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. So the question is, what type of movies are your favorite to watch? Um, I mean, I personally love horror. That's probably my favorite
Right.
genre.
I think, yeah, for me, I mean, horror definitely for me. And I think I would go even a step further and say that sci-fi horror is probably my
Mm,
favorite because I mean, I know you know this. We've talked a lot about it just kind of outside this podcast, but I really am a huge fan of The Thing and I'm a huge fan of Alien. And I just love sci-fi horror where I think like there's always a suspension of disbelief that needs to happen on the audience's part to kind of buy into a horror movie. And I feel like it's a lot easier when it's sci-fi because there's already things that are there's like a high tech and you're in a kind of an unfamiliar setting. It's a little bit easier for you to sort of believe that crazy, horrible things are happening.
And you know what makes those movies even more believable? We will go to make this to the Alien cast.
I know, as much
It's
as I would like it.
it's the fact that in Alien, while they're doing a fictional job, the core of it isn't fictional. They're just space miners. We
Yeah,
have
just
miners in real life, so you get it.
right.
They're off
Regular people.
in space mining. Got it. Okay. And the thing, it's just scientists doing stuff in Antarctica, which happens in real life.
Right.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. There's enough sci-fi trappings in the thing, and obviously, I mean, Alien, it's very sci-fi, but there's enough to ground you in how the characters behave in the setting and in their occupations, like in Alien. But there's also the sci-fi trappings on the outside that give you that kind of thing to hang the craziness on that makes it all kind of feel realistic and believable.
The
Like, oh,
thing to hang the crazy on. I gotcha.
wink, wink. Dad jokes, the podcast.
Dad jokes, the podcast. The letter goes on. Any all-time favorite movies? I think you just answered. Yours is like The Thing and
Alien
Alien.
thing for sure. Yeah, hands down.
My favorite movie of all time is Ghostbusters. I think you're kind of seeing like a theme here, at least from like Greg and I. Sci-fi horror movies. uh, They're great, especially in my opinion, when they involve a job that's somewhat realistic but also fictional. Ghostbusters, they're just exterminators
Yeah.
for ghosts, ghost exterminators. That's it.
Yep. It's
It's
it's it's both believable. It's like it's familiar enough, but it's got some fantastical element to it that kind of gives the movie its charm.
And then the last question is, do you think by the time you're done watching all these movies, any of them will make your favorite lists? Uh, what a question there. So this is episode what, 16 we said?
17.
17.
Yep.
So we've watched 16 movies. Um, I don't think any of them currently would ever make my favorite list. Obviously, like Gas Pump Girls, I'm so glad that I got to see that one. I
Right.
think again, and not to belabor the fact, but if it didn't have so much nudity in it, it probably would be one of those movies that I would just put on a Sunday in the background while I did other stuff. Right? It's so non-offensive and goofy.
Yeah.
That I'd be able to enjoy it. I I'm glad that we got to see Death Wish 2. It was still too rapey. I hopefully the
Yeah.
sequels are less
I'm
rapey.
not holding my breath on that, but yeah.
Um, but I think there's definitely some ones that will eventually come up that I will enjoy. I don't think it'll ever be one of those things where like I'm sitting down and it's like, hey, you know what? We should watch Ninja.
Enter the Ninja. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think I'm probably on the same page as you. I mean, there are definitely some, genuinely good movies in our catalog so far. Joe is definitely one of them. The Godsend was really good.
Oh, you know what? Fuck, The Godsend. I actually think that will be one of those movies that I do revisit every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's definitely it's hard to say when I say like something that's in your favorite list. I don't think there's anything in our catalog that I would say would ever touch Alien or The Thing or any of those movies that are like in my top 10 list, but there are definitely some that I would watch again because
Yeah.
they're good in either like a funny bad way or kind of like they have that charm to some B movies that you get. I think that's where these movies will probably top out for me is like, okay, it was for a B movie in the canon library, I'd watch it again. That's kind of like that's probably the highest praise most of these movies would even get.
I think there's some later canon films. Obviously, we are not anywhere near getting to them. Masters of the Universe, Superman 4, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Those are movies that I do rewatch. I enjoy watching them, but to put them on a favorites list,
Yeah, it's a different kind of appreciation, right? Or
it
like
is.
I rewatch Alien all the time because I just love the movie. It's so well done on so many levels. I would rewatch The Godsend again, maybe because I'm in the mood for a cheesy B horror movie. Like it's not a favorite movie, but you still have a good time watching it.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
There's two different lists, right? There's like my actual favorite movies, and then there's movies where it's like I just want to like veg out and zone out.
Yeah. It's like there's something about these kind of older B movies that are clearly like objectively not great, but it's almost like they have a coziness to them sometimes
Yeah,
because it's kind of like a familiar level of cheese and it's kind of goofy. You don't really take it too seriously. It's something you
familiar
put on,
themes.
yeah, familiar themes. It's not something, you really need to be invested in. You put it on in the background, like you said, and just kind of it's window dressing for your real life.
You just do the BIM while you're
The
cleaning.
BIM.
Do the BIM.
Apple callbacks. The only one that's probably ever happened since that stupid movie came out.
Do the BIM. I don't know how
Hey,
the song
hey,
goes
hey,
anymore.
hey.
Yeah, it's a bunch of haze. Hey, 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 do the BIM.
Eat the apple. It's not evil. Eat the apple.
I'm a snake.
I'm a snake. It's not crapple.
It's not crapple. It's an apple. Thanks for giving me something to do while I isolate during the pandemic. So
You're welcome,
you're welcome.
viewer,
We're
listener.
filling your time with movies, which I mean, honestly, there's a lot worse things that you could do.
A lot worse things you could shove down your ear holes.
Exactly. Into your ear holes and into your
Your
eye
subconscious.
holes. Well, if you like what you're wait, no, we're not there yet.
What
Next
are we
week,
watching next week?
exactly.
Yeah.
What are we watching next week? Greg, I don't think we're gonna like it.
Mm,
I know we're not gonna love it.
mm.
It's time for Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Oh God.
At an hour and 43 minutes,
Oh, fuck
we're going to
off.
watch a film adaptation of D.H. Lawrence's novel. After a crippling injury leaves her husband impotent, Lady Chatterley is torn between her love for her husband and her physical desires. With her husband's consent, she seeks out other means of fulfilling her needs. Starring
I bet she
Sylvia
does.
Crystal and Nicholas Clay,
And
directed
Barbie
by,
Benton.
yeah, oh, I wish.
Uh,
Directed by a guy named Just Jakin. That's right. His first name is Just. We are going to watch the 1982 film Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Lady Shadows. Oh. So, I mean, I think in terms of genre here, are we in like full romance?
This one is drama, romance, historical.
Uh,
Lady
Lady Chatterley's
Chatterley's
lover.
Lover.
Ugh. I mean,
But don't worry, after that, it's alien contamination.
oh, thank Christ.
I think this one and Body and Soul, which we couldn't watch because it wasn't on Amazon Prime,
Right.
are probably one of the few actual like romance movies.
Romances.
I don't think there's too many of them in the canon film
Right.
library.
They probably realized pretty quick after this what their bread and butter was. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're like, we only made $2 million off this. Give
get me
give
Charles Bronson.
yeah, give him a gun. Give Charles Bronson a gun.
Like, okay, I will try to suspend some of my groans until we see it, but I I feel like I would probably rather watch a bad romance than a bad comedy. Like I feel like the Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype is it's got to be the bottom of like, tolerability. I
Oh
feel like
God.
a bad romance might not be as bad, or at least as like irritating as a bad comedy. I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to
I'm
give this the benefit of the doubt.
I'm looking at the poster for Lady Chatterley's Lovers. There's boobs on the poster, so at least there's gonna be boobs.
At least there's boobs. God, I feel
So
sleazy just saying that, but if that's like the best thing that we've got to look forward to, I guess I'll
boobs.
take it.
Would you rather watch the movie or read the book?
Oh, movie hands down.
I wonder how long the book is. Let's take a look at that really quick. Lady Chatterley's Lover,
Shirley's Lover.
book length.
1,000 pages. Oh my God.
Let's see here. I don't. It says if you read it, it would take you 8 hours and 6 minutes at 250 words a minute. What the
Uh,
fuck? That doesn't answer me how many damn pages the book is.
like, oh, give me a word count.
What?
Come on, Google.
360 pages.
Okay, that's not too bad then. That's a pretty reasonably sized novel.
Uh, not what I expected. 4 stars. There's no free lunch. 1 star. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's next week's problem.
That's
Uh,
next week, Phil and Greg's problem.
yeah.
Fuck those guys.
So if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Give us some constructive criticism. Ask us some questions. How can we make this podcast more enjoyable to you? Make sure you follow us at Twitter at That's Canon, and you can email us at thatscanon@gmail.com. That's THATSCANNON @gmail.com. And remember, since we said it,
That's canon.
I love how upset you got.